Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling something that, let's be honest, usually puts people right to sleep. A dense, 30-plus page municipal budget. But stick with me, because we're going to completely demystify it. We're looking at the City of Big Lake's 2027 budget and long-term financial management plan. And by the end of our time together, you're going to understand exactly how your city invests in today while proactively planning for tomorrow.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll quickly hit the 2027 budget blueprint, see exactly where your money goes, take a look at city utilities and enterprises, dive into planning for the future, and finally wrap up with the long-term outlook. Let's jump in.
All right, Section 1, the 2027 Budget Blueprint. Let's look at the immediate, tangible impact. Before we get bogged down in millions of dollars and macroeconomics, I want you to just think about this for a second. What does a thriving, functional city actually cost you on a daily or monthly basis? Think about the police officers on patrol, the fire department ready to go, snow getting cleared off your streets, those parks your kids play in. What's the actual price tag for all of that readiness and infrastructure?
Well, for the proposed 2027 budget, assuming an average home value of about $350,000, the estimated city tax impact is just $7 a month. Seriously, $7. That's what, the cost of a single fancy cup of coffee? If you break that down, you're literally looking at about 22 cents a day to keep your community safe and running smoothly.
So let's look at the core metrics here for the 2027 General Fund. The total proposed budget sits at $8.17 million. Now that's a 4.86% increase over 2026, which is driven mostly by inflation, contractual wages, and a projected 17% jump in health insurance premiums. But here is the absolute most important takeaway. This budget maintains all of your current service levels, and it does it with 0 new general fund positions being added. It's a really tight, maintenance-focused blueprint.
Moving right along to Section 2, where your money goes.
Okay, let's dive into this. Providing municipal services is incredibly labor-intensive. In fact, a massive 65% of the budget goes directly to employee wages and fringe benefits. And that makes sense, right? You can't just automate a firefighter responding to a call or a public works crew plowing out a snowstorm. You are paying for the actual people who make the city run.
And when we break those services down by department, it's pretty eye-opening. Nearly half, 49% of all department spending goes directly to public safety. That really reflects a clear community priority on police and fire readiness. It's all about ensuring that when you dial 911, someone is there to answer the call, no questions asked.
So when you pay that general levy property tax, what are you actually buying? Well, here's the rapid-fire list. Police protection, fire and emergency response, streets and snow removal, keeping up the parks and trails, city administration, and the debt service needed to build long-term community investments. These are the absolutely essential everyday services that just have to function for a city to be livable.
All right, Section 3, City Utilities and Enterprises. Now, there's a really common misconception in municipal finance that we need to clear up. The general fund, which we just looked at, is supported mainly by property taxes. But enterprise funds, they're an entirely different beast. They operate much more like self-sustaining private businesses. They are funded entirely by user charges and service fees. So the cost is carried primarily by the folks who actually use the service, not the general taxpayer.
When we look at the 2027 rate planning for these enterprise funds, we're seeing a planned 5% rate increase for the water utility and a 10% increase for the sewer utility. And that's really just to prepare for future infrastructure needs. But get this, here's a truly surprising fact. The Big Lake Municipal Liquor Store is also an enterprise fund. It's completely self-supporting, and its operating profits are actually transferred directly to fund city parks' capital improvements. So yeah, buying local literally helps build your local parks. Pretty cool, right?
That brings us to Section 4, Planning for the Future.
Listen, good financial management isn't just about paying today's bills. It's about avoiding crisis management tomorrow. And the city does this using a tool called the Capital Improvement Program, or CIP for short. Basically, think of this as the city's dedicated savings account. Instead of waiting for a road to completely crumble and then taking out massive debt to fix it, the city saves over time. For example, this 2027 budget includes a $450,000 transfer straight into street maintenance, so they're preparing today for the roads you're going to drive on tomorrow.
Of course, to save money, you need revenue. Property taxes and assessments definitely do the heavy lifting here, at 67%. But I want to draw your attention to a much smaller slice, intergovernmental revenues, sitting at 5%. That slice represents funds like local government aid from the state, And while it might look small on a chart, it is absolutely critical to the city's overall financial health.
Here is the really crucial point, though. Local government aid is shrinking fast. In 2027, the city will receive just under $500,000 in LGA. But under current statutory formulas, if state law doesn't change, that number is projected to hit zero by 2031. Zero. Because the city has historically used this aid to support capital replacement, losing it creates a projected $1.5 million funding gap by 2031. This is a massive challenge, and it requires some incredibly careful planning right now.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, the long-term outlook.
Let's zoom out and see how this all builds across the timeline. The City of Big Lake doesn't just budget 1 year at a time. They use what's called a rolling 5-year plan. So while they're only adopting the 2027 preliminary budget right now, they're simultaneously mapping out concept budgets all the way out to 2032. This lets them predict massive future needs, like that upcoming wastewater treatment facility expansion we know is coming, years in advance. It spreads the cost out rather than hitting taxpayers with sudden massive rate hikes out of nowhere.
A really perfect example of this strategic planning in action is how they're handling debt. The city has a $1.1 million debt service levy in 2027, and that includes the very first full payment for the new public safety facility bonds. Now, to cushion that blow to the taxpayers, the city actually temporarily dropped the economic development levy, the BLEDA levy, down to just $10,000 for 2027 and 2028. It'll bounce back to its normal level in 2029. That is strategic balancing right there. You adjust one lever to accommodate another.
I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. The city is doing the math, for sure, but ultimately, these are community choices. As local government aid from the state shrinks, and as our roads, parks, and facilities naturally just age, what is the right balance between the taxes we're willing to pay today and the thriving, safe community we want to live in tomorrow? It's a really complex equation. But as we've seen today, proactive planning is absolutely the best way to solve it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.